So we're a week away from the boxing match that nobody asked for, right? And the UFC event that everybody will be watching. Canelo's fighting Berlanga, another snooze fest. They're trying to sell a pay-per-view for $90 and $500 minimum in person. It's just robbery at this point to pay for another lame Canelo fight that always goes the distance against a subpar.
When Oscar de la Hoya unleashes his trademark clapback Thursday segment, he doesn't hold back. This time, his target is the eagerly awaited Canelo Alvarez vs. Edgar Berlanga match. Canelo Alvarez reacted in disbelief to the most recent training video by Edgar Berlanga. September 14th at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas is the date of the showdown. On social media, the Golden Boy didn't hold back when criticizing the fight. De la Hoya didn't hold back when it came to denouncing the $89.99 cost of the DAZN pay-per-view, referring to it as outright robbery. A week from now, everyone will be watching the UFC event with Canelo and Berlanga, which Oscar believes is a total farce, and the boxing match that nobody asked for. Fest's current attempt to charge $90 for a pay-per-view with a $500 in-person minimum is nothing more than theft used to finance yet another absurd event. Canelo fight that refuses to give up on a weak opponent. There are other things than the cost that annoy De La Hoya. The renowned promoter declared categorically that there is a huge mismatch in this battle. Berlanga is a rising star. The secondary card, Oscar didn't hold back, labeling the entire thing a bust and providing very little amusement for those prepared to part with their hard-earned cash. A fighter with a 220 record who is still bitter over Canelo leaving Golden Boy Promotions in 2020 is by no means prepared to take on a combat-hardened veteran like Canelo. De La Hoya pulled a jab, implying that Berlanga is being forced into a bout he is not ready for out of haste in order to make money. De La Hoya asserts that the fans will suffer the greatest loss. He was direct in his evaluation, branding the bout as a snooze fest and cautioning that fans who shelled out over $90 are probably going to be dissatisfied if the activity inside the ring
I'll be attending the UFC event at the Sphere instead. I love the sport of boxing more than anything, and I will be watching boxing matches anywhere. So the idea I'm choosing to attend the UFC and support Dana White instead of Canelo tells you everything you
isn't up to par. I'll watch boxing matches wherever I go, but the fact that I'm picking the UFC over Canelo and sticking with Dana White tells all you need to know about how I feel about the sport. Either way, I'll be at the Sphere's UFC event. The Golden Boy went so far as to draw a comparison between the lackluster boxing battle and the UFC event that took place that same weekend, suggesting that he thinks the fans will most likely move to the UFC. Oscar continued by claiming that no one had asked for the fight and referred to the $90 asking price for a match that would almost surely result in a knockout as highway robbery. Although he acknowledges his skills, De La Hoya believes his hitting power surpasses that of Canelo. Oscar hinted that a more competitive clash would have resulted from the New Yorker facing Caleb Plant, the former IBF super middleweight champion. Rather, Berlanga is overconfident due to the lure of a sizable wallet. There, Oscar launched into another tirade about how much he loved boxing and how much he was becoming dissatisfied with the way the sport was going. This battle was just one more instance of promoters prioritizing profit over enjoyment, leaving fans unsatisfied with the drab performance. De La Hoya's admonition should be heeded by fans, but will they still lose it? He is shelling out over $100 for what he anticipates being a major disappointment. One thing is for sure, Canelo hasn't held back in expressing his true feelings to the boxing community as he prepares for his upcoming battle. Jose Benavidez, a super middleweight, has an elderly father. Once again, candidate David Benavidez delivered a scathing critique of the Mexican champion's career. Benavidez Sr. claims in an interview with the Boxing Voice that Alvarez has had protection from several boxing organizations, which has allowed him to make career decisions that, although beneficial to him, have come at the expense of
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Cambio, vamos.
Budding talent such as his son. Benav Sr. expressed claims that Canelo is able to choose opponents who are at a disadvantage and frequently imposes restrictive measures because of his power in the boxing scene. Clauses claimed that Canelo's career-long practice of sanctioning bodies ignoring his actions which, in his view, endanger the integrity of the sport continued. With all of Canelo's talent and the knowledge that these titles are tainted, I think the organizations will shield him until he retires. Following the International Boxing Federation's decision to strip Canelo Alvarez of his title because he refused to take part in a required contest against William Skell, Benevida, SR, said these things. Canelo maintained that Skell wasn't a worthy opponent, but Jose Benavides Sr. defended the federation's position. The federation didn't waver, following its rules and regaining the title from Alvarez. I believe it was the federation that finally had the courage to deny Canelo a belt, and I salute them for that. The promoter Eddie Hearn called Edgar Berlanga.
So we're a week away from the boxing match that nobody asked for, right? And the UFC event that everybody will be watching. Canelo's fighting Berlanga, another snooze fest. They're trying to sell a pay-per-view for $90 and $500 minimum in person. It's just robbery at this point to pay for another lame Canelo fight that always goes the distance against a subpar.
Berlanga's next bout, a golden opportunity, Benavides Sr. went on, hoping that more businesses would eventually hold Canelo accountable. One that is simply too significant to overlook at 27 Puerto Rican combatant, although Berlanga is clearly thrilled to be fighting. Canelo for the super middleweight titles on September 14th at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. This dream match might seem more like a difficult task given that he will be facing one of the biggest names in boxing, Alvarez. Hearn, the head of Matchroom Boxing and a Berlanga promoter, feels his boxer is prepared to seize this opportunity even though the odds are not in his favor. You never know if you're ready for a guy like Canelo Alvarez until you enter the ring, Hearn said to Domo. This is due to the fact that the elite Berlanga is ready for combat in SIPA War 14, which sets Puerto Rico against Mexico. When Berlanga defeated Padre McHugh of Ireland in just 6 rounds in February of last year, he demonstrated that he was a viable contender. His commanding victory elevated him to the WBA's mandatory challenger in the 168-pound division, despite the cancellation of scheduled bouts against Christian Emely of France and Hai Monja of Mexico. Canelo selected Berlanga as his opponent for the fight on Mexico's Independence Day after the announcement. The two boxers got into a heated argument, after which Berlanga vowed to use his sharp jab and crafty approach to challenge Canelo's dominance. According to Hearn, there isn't much of a difference between the two boxers. Edgar could have been able to buy a Monja or Mbili, he surmised, but those were possibilities that didn't come along very often, and you have to grab them when they do. Hearn also said that, following his dominant 6th-round knockout of Machai Sule last Saturday, undefeated Diego Pacho will square off against the winner of the Canelo-Berlanga fight. With a 220 record, Pacho has 18 knockouts. With multiple body strikes knocking Sui unconscious with him splayed on the canvas, Pacho has now won 10 of his past 11 fights via stoppage. Diego will have to fight Canelo Alvarez against the winner of Berlanga, in my opinion. He probably needs that friction battle, but you never know until it's too late. Edgar Berlanga is ready for his next battle and is full of confidence. He had before declared that he had better talents than the Mexican super middleweight champion and that he would stop Canelo in 6 rounds. He has since adopted a more assertive posture, stating that his ultimate objective is to make Canelo give up boxing. Definitely, I want to retire him. He's a legend, and I'm not trying to sit here and belittle him or anything, but at some point we have to fight. In an interview with TMZ Sports, Berlanga stated that the Puerto Rican boxer had already fulfilled his obligations in the sport of boxing by announcing that his opponent was defeated and claiming that he was capable of taking away his championship belts. At 168 pounds, I believe it's my moment to step up and take command, said Berlanga finally. He said, I am destined to make history on September 14th to become a legend on that day, to take over the sport of boxing and become the face of the sport. He also announced that the fight between Canelo and Berlanga is scheduled to take place at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas on September 14th, the weekend of Mexico's Independence Day celebrations. The 27-year-old Berlanga enters this fight with a spotless record of 220 wins, including 17 knockout victories, while the Mexican champion has an impressive record of 65 wins, 2 draws, and 2 losses. While Canelo has the advantage in experience and record, not all analysts are discounting the challenger. Steven Espinoza, for instance, has endorsed the Puerto Rican fighter and voiced confidence that he will pose a serious threat to Canelo. One of the biggest obstacles when dealing with a man as successful and experienced as Canelo is persuading people that his fights will be competitive, he informed the boxing scene. Surprisingly, Berlanga's former trainer Mark's fate served as the driving force behind his audacious plunge. There was fire, flair, and emotion in both fighters. It was immediately clear that Berlanga is more than just a showman. Berra's ascent to prominence has been nothing short of remarkable. He won the WBO NABU super middleweight title in 2021 after knocking out his first 16 opponents in the first round.